first. You're right.
Is it just us, or are we expecting more people?
There's only 6 homes, so being a Friday, people are going to be watching it back. So we're the recording stars for everybody else.
Got it. So okay, so we need to pour the wines. Okay.
Yeah.
Number one, two, one. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4 first. We only have 4 glasses each.
Oh, okay. I did a very big tasting during COVID with 150 homes, and half of the people didn't have wine glasses, so they ended up drinking out of the jars.
Don't pour the thing.
Okay, so Matthew, do you want me to play the video now?
Yes, we can start. We can start. It will last at least less than 9 minutes.
Yeah.
And you will understand more deeply.
It'll give Kasala and Joe a chance to have a taste.
And then after you can ask me any question you want, okay?
Sounds great.
So I have been working for 19 years at Lagrange, so feel free. I'm the head winemaker for a long time, so you can ask me whatever you want. You can see Bordeaux, so it's in between, especially the left bank is in between Atlantic Ocean and the river. And that's one of the reasons we have a very cool and temperated climate, not too warm during the summer, not too cold during the winter. From what we call the left bank part of the river, you can start from the north with Saint-Estèphe, Pauillac, the tiny appellation of Saint-Julien, and large and close to Bordeaux, Margaux. It's only 20 kilometers long and 4 kilometers wide. And Saint-Julien has the particularity, this is the smallest one. 11 classified groves covered 85% of the appellation, and Lagrange is in one single block located on the highest point, only 24 meters above the sea level, but this is the highest point of Saint-Julien. And this vineyard is unchanged for 400 years, which is very important because you know that in Bordeaux, it's not the land which is classified, it's the brand. So nothing compared to a Burgundy. And these plots belong to Lagrange, even if when it was classified third in 1855. So when I arrived at the chateau 19 years ago, I dug 200 holes in the vineyard to have a map of the soil and the subsoil. We have mostly Cabernet Sauvignon, 2/3 of Cab, 1/3 of Merlot, and few percent of Petit Verdot. And we found 17 type of soil that we can group in main 5. At the top of the hill, mostly deep gravelly soil, Gansian gravel, so the type 2 and the type 2 and the type 3, and it's up to 80% of pebbles, which means that the soil is extremely dry, poor, and warm, which is just amazing to grow Cabernet Sauvignon. And as far as you go to the south part of the estate, I have a little bit less gravels, from 40, 30, 20, reach 10% in the yellow part, with much more clay and limestone. So having this kind of map of soil and subsoil is very helpful for harvest, for plot selection, but also for restructuration when we pull out and replant to adapt the best rootstock and the best clones and grape variety. All the vineyard is drained regarding the relief, but also inside the plots. And we produce 2 wines at the chateau. Lagrange, you can see Lagrange with the red plots, Lefief with the orange plots, our second wine, and the blue one, they are in the middle, some years into Lefief, some years into Lagrange. So the key point is the terroir.
It's very interesting on that point, Matthew, because the quality of Lefief in the last few years has become extraordinarily good. Is that a factor of climate, or what has contributed to the exceptional production quality of Lefief?
Yes, of course, the climate is very helpful, especially to ripe all the grape variety. Merlot, it's easy, but also Cabernet Sauvignon and Petit Verdot. But it's also because the plots we use for Lefief is for the oldest 60 years old vines, the youngest a little bit less than 10, but the average of the plots we have for Lefief is 30 years old, which is for a second wine extremely old.
Yeah.
This is the first point. And the second point is also because my owner is so wealthy. And this is the third point to make a great wine. You'd have to manage 3 points. And the third one is how much Grand Vin you will produce. my owner allow me to produce small quantity of Grand Vin and more Lefief. So it means that I can select more, the best for the top wine. And I
Okay.
have also in the second wine some very good and very old plots.
I was
If you
just,
do the opposite,
yeah,
of course, you decrease the quality
the
of the both
quality.
wine.
I was so impressed with the last two vintages of Lefebvre that I went back and bought old vintages of it. And there's no question, even factoring in the question of age and ageability of the wines, etc., even from really good vintages, Lefebvre has definitely improved
Yeah,
dramatically. So,
thank you very much. And I drink recently some 2016, 10 years old Lefief.
yeah,
The wine is really amazing. And
really,
it can compete blind with some Grand Vin
yeah,
from Classified Growth.
yeah, that's amazing.
So alors,
Mm.
well, the video is continuing.
Yeah,
So during the harvest time, which is the second point to make a great wine, the date of picking, you have to pick at the right time. So I spent usually 3 hours a day in the vineyard by tasting the grapes to find which plots and what kind of pieces of plots we have to pick. We could have picked by hand, of course, always, but up to 250 pickers. So the maximum that I could pick is 18 hectares in a day. And after picking the grapes, 10 minutes later, the truck is coming back to the harvest reception. We remove the snails, the leaves, the stones, and all the bad bunches. It's hand sorting, then vibrating sorting, and also gravity distemper and optical scanner. And we were the first estate to rent this machine in '09, and the result was so good that we purchased 2 optical scanners in 2010. And this harvest reception is so efficient. In 1 minute and a half, the grapes are sorted and included into the pipe with injection of nitrogen. Then we have 102 vats to manage the 103 plots since 2008 and 10. So already for a long, long time. This is one of the key. We perform extremely well to increase the quality of both one. Also, I will explain you. And we have all the techniques at the chateau, only stainless steel because it's easy to clean. And we do punching down, pumping over, délestage, air pulse, all the process to extract the color. Then after 3 weeks, we devat and we put the wine, and the wine age almost 20, 21 months in oak. In January, with my team, we do the blind. We always taste blind, focusing just on the quality of the plots. So it represents 120 samples that we taste blind and pick only the best of the best for the Grand Vin. And then usually it represents 40% and 60% on average goes to Lefief. After doing that, the cellar master on the right, Stefan, is doing physically the blend at the end of January, and the wine continued to age for up to 21 months on average. And after 21 months, we pump back, blend another time, and bottling on your own at the chateau. We are not so many chateaus who are able to manage from the pruning until the bottling. And if you have the chance to come to Bordeaux, of course, let me know because we have plenty of facilities, lunch, dinner, tasting, masterclass. We can do what you want, and it will be very pleased. We will be very pleased to have you. But the key point to make a Grand Vin, it's really, really important. You have to manage 3 points. You must have a good terroir. And you can find a good terroir everywhere in the world, not only in Bordeaux for sure. But at Lagrange, the one single block vineyard unchanged for 400 years, we have some amazing plots. Second point, date of picking. So having the flexibility to be able to pick and to make stop and restart and stop. My smallest time of picking was 12 days. My longest, 29 days. I adapt depending on the vintage and the ripeness, the rhythm, the speed of the picking. And the last point is how much money have you owner, how much Grand Vin you want to make. Less Grand Vin you produce is not good for profit, but it's very good for quality, believe me.
Yeah.
So if you're able to manage these 3 points, everyone in this room could be the winemaker. It's so easy, so easy. Voilà, that was for the sample for the video.
Yeah.
This video is available on YouTube. If you want to relook to have a look,
Fantastic.
you wrote Chateau Lagrange video and you will find it.
All right, great. Mattieu, what I wanted to ask you now, having looked at the first three, the 2005, 2012, and the 20, it's interesting for me that the 12, when I tasted them when I was pouring, was quite tannic and big. It had sort of, its elbows were definitely out. And I
You
was
mean the
quite,
20?
it was this sense of tannin and broadness in
Yes.
the
Which one? Which vintage?
12,
12,
2012.
sorry. Okay.
And then the 2005, compared for between 5 and 12 and 20, I think that 5 um, has come better and better over the 5 hours since it was opened. It's a lot more delicious now than it was showing at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock this morning. And then 20, I'm in love with. I think it's just the most perfect expression of what you guys are producing.
I'm agree with you. Yes, exactly. So let me explain you because in 2005 I was not the winemaker. I arrived at
Yeah,
the end of a seats,
yeah.
and what they did at that time, they had only 56 vats to
Mm,
manage the 103 plots. So they made some compromises,
mm,
and to fill the vat you have to pitch 3-4 plots in the same day.
right.
And '05, as you know, was one of the best vintage of the 2000 decades, and we could say one of the best vintage over the last 40 years
Mm,
in Bordeaux. And what is surprising is, even it was a warm year, the blend is really different compared to what we are able to produce nowadays. It's 46 Cabernet Sauvignon, 45 Merlot, and
mm.
9% Petit Verdot. So having almost the same quantity of Merlot and Cab, even now it's impossible for me to produce that. But at that time, I think maybe they picked the Cab a little bit too early,
Ah,
and finally they could not add so much Cab in the blend because they did
mm,
exactly what in the way we are doing now. They taste
mm.
blind and they kept only the best plots for the Grand Vin. And finally, they succeed in adding 9% of Petit Verdot because we usually use the Petit Verdot as a booster of the blend.
Yeah, yeah.
When we consider that the Cab are not so strong or
Mm.
the Merlot are a bit too smooth,
It's giving some
having
color and some vivacity to the wine, I guess.
it gives color, acidity,
Yeah,
tannins, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
So 9% of Petit Verdot is quite a lot. I've never put 9% of Petit Verdot in my memory
Ah,
over the last 19 years.
right.
But I have much more Cabernet nowadays.
Mm, mm,
And '05 was, I was a little bit stressed when I arrived at the chateau because the wine was still in barrel and I
mm.
bottled this wine. But with too much Merlot, I was maybe so. And finally, we did a lot of benchmark blind as we used to do at Lagrange. And '05 Lagrange is an extremely nice wine,
Mm,
aged properly, smooth. But I'm sure that if we had the facilities that we have nowadays, like the small vats, the 103 vats,
mm.
the optical scanner and everything, we took more risk also for the picking time, the date of picking. We would have been better. We
Mm,
would have made better,
mm,
I
mm.
think. But the wine is really nice in its perfect window of tasting. But I would say very unusual nowadays, but it was something very common over
Mm.
the last early 2000 and end of 90s with almost around 50, 55 Cab and 40, 45 Merlot.
It's interesting. I did quite a big dinner last year of O5s, left bank O5s. And they
Ah,
are all at this point now where I think they're at their cruising altitude. I know it's not particularly long ago from a vintage point of view, but
we reached the plateau.
yeah, it's definitely plateaued, exceptionally good. The secondary market prices have come down a little bit. But by and large, it remains quite an expensive vintage to buy. And that's why Lagrange, we've now sold out of Lagrange because I wanted to do this tasting tonight. But by and large, O5s are still holding price and value, but each winery, each producer, how long that maturity cycle now lasts is a question still to be resolved, I think.
Hmm.
So if you
Totally.
were to compare harvest of 12 against 20.
Alors, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
2012 was one of the coldest year over the last 30 years. One of the coldest. So it was at the time. Alors, in my memory, you had it was during the year a little bit like that,
Right.
but most of the time very cold.
Right.
A lot of sun and dry in March, August, and September, but a lot of rain in April, June, and October.
Oh, okay. So
So
not, yeah, so that's
hot,
crazy timing.
hot and dry, dry and rainy,
Yeah.
but almost cool, and I would say close to cold during the growing season.
And then
So,
20 by contrast is just even, right? The temperature.
and 2020 was the warmest weather at that time.
Right.
In Bordeaux, huh? Not
Oh.
only over the last 40 years,
Mm.
the warmest ever. First, it was the 18, beaten by the 20,
Right.
beaten by the 22. The 23 is the second after the 22, and the 25
Yeah.
is the fourth warmest ever.
Really. So
Thanks to the global warming.
are you seeing this earlier and earlier harvest?
Alors,
The dates getting shorter and shorter?
you're right. In 2012, in a cold vintage, we started the latest we have ever made, 8th of October. In 2025, last year, like 2022, 8th of September. A
That's
month,
unbelievable. It's extraordinary.
unbelievable, exactly, unbelievable. We finished the harvest in 2012, in my memory, on the 21st of October. Last year, I finished the 24th of September.
It's really crazy.
So, c'est incroyable.
I think that what jumps out of the glass for me in 20 is the sense of the wine is maturing now. It's hitting that secondary stage of maturation, but the minerality and the brightness of fruit is extraordinarily good.
It's extremely focused, yes.
Yeah,
Alors,
there's definitely this incredible linearity to the wine. It's just delicious to drink now. And the price point in Singapore terms is there's a lot of wines at double this price that can't perform as well as this 2020.
I know.
It's really amazing.
2005, 46 cab, warm year. 2012, cold year, but I picked late, I took risk. It's 67 cab, 20% more cab than the 05 in a cold vintage. And you have no greenness on the nose. 2020, 74 cab. You will see with the 2022 and the 2023 and the 2021, we are above 80% cab.
Right. And
Vineyard is the same.
So the climate is actually defining that rather than you as the winemaker or viticulturist. It's the climate that's saying it needs more Cabernet and less Merlot to produce what you're looking for.
Because you can every year in Bordeaux, even on the left or the right bank, every year you can pick Merlot overripe if you want. But even we had a warmest vintage over the last centuries, few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, we can't pick overripe Cabernet Sauvignon. But we can pick ripe Cabernet Sauvignon now. Nothing compared to the 80s. So finally, when the cab are ripe, this is the backbone of the wine. You have the fresh fruit, the purity, the freshness. You have the backbone, the tannins, and you have also the acidity. And the wine is not boring at all. So Merlot, more and
obviously
more.
there's a climatic trend, right? So as it gets warmer and warmer, there's not much further to go. If you're producing an 81% Cabernet for 2023, what are you going to do with the Merlot? Is Lafite going to become more and more Merlot dominant?
Exactly. Alors, I give you the story of the 2025 because this is the premier wheat which started now. 2025, this is 77 cab, 18 Merlot, 5 Petit Verdot. The yield was extremely small, especially the size of the berries. They were the smallest ever. In my second wine, Lefebvre, this is the first time I have 57 Merlot, 33 Cab, 10 Petit Verdot.
Really?
Usually,
Other way
it
around.
was the opposite.
Yeah.
It was the opposite.
Yeah.
So I have a double effect. First, the small size of the berries because of the drought, especially affected the most the Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah.
And second part, because I put more Cab in my blend. So finally, I have more Merlot in my second wine.
Right.
It makes a fief a little bit more approachable without losing the ability of aging. But this year, the fief is extremely smooth. You can already drink the wine. You can already.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm seeing. So if we're looking at 2021 in contrast to 2020, there's a definite focus and concentration of the fruit. It's quite intensely focused is the only word I can find for it. Again, the minerality is there, Matthew. The beautiful, bright, almost crunchy minerality in 21. I can see why this was of such appeal. But then jumping to 22, would I be right in saying that 22 is the closest stylistically to 2020?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Alors, 21, I like this vintage for the main reason is a winemaker vintage. 22, you could be the winemaker. 23, you could be 2020, you could be the winemaker. But 21 was really tough for two reasons. It was a cold year. Some rain, but the main problem was the fact that it was one of the coldest of the last 25 years.
Right.
And we took a lot of risks to de-leaf and to expose the grapes to the sun rays to try to ripe as much as we can. And we are extremely proud of this, what we call shadow vintage, because in the 70s or 80s, if we had such weather conditions, it would have been a disaster. And finally, even if we had
I've lost your sound,
conditions, tough weather conditions.
You're back. You
lost me.
I lost
It's
you
okay?
for a second. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Okay. Even 2021 was really tough. The goal was not to pick too early, so we took a lot of risk and tried to pick as late as possible. And believe me, the harvest session we have, being able to pick up to 18 hectares in a day for us was like a salvatory. I waited the maximum that I can, and then we picked extremely rapidly. Even each day count in such a vintage.
A lot of anxiety. It's crazy when you think about it.
And in the end, when we did the blend, we were scared at the beginning because after 18, 19, 20, 3 amazing vintage, 21, very cool. And finally, we succeed in having 84% Cabernet Sauvignon, which was at that time the highest Cab we have ever had in a Lagrange. 14 Merlot and 2% Petit Verdot, the smallest quantity of Merlot ever. In a challenging year, it was a great reward. Of course, when you taste the Cab, they are a little bit more al dente compared to the 2020.
Oh, that's a great expression. I've never heard of that expression in talking about Cabernet. I'll borrow that from you.
Vegetal, varietal, al dente.
Al dente. I remember talking to an Italian Tuscan producer, and I was banging on about 2016 and 2010. And she said, yeah, well, that's fine, but you have to be an idiot to mess it up in those years. Where it becomes more theoretically interesting is the harder years. And you use that phrase, the shadow vintage, and that's exactly right. It's those hard vintages that really call on the absolute most technical expertise of the winemaker and the viticulturist. I think the viticulturist is also often forgotten. In the winemaker is the glamour, and the viticulturist is somebody whose his role is equally important, I think, in the process of making.
And also in such a vintage like 2021, it's also quite important. The impact of the crop, of the yield that you have is big, because in a year you have less sun rays, less warm. if you have a little bit less crop on your vine, they could ripe easily
Yeah.
compared to big crop. And 2021 in Bordeaux was at that time the smallest quantity Bordeaux have ever had. We did only 34%, 34 hectoliters per hectare, which is for us, I would say, the average. It's a bad average, but this is the average of the last few years. So it was also helpful to ripe correctly, not as good as the 2020
Yeah.
or the 2022, but
Yeah.
properly regarding the weather conditions we had in this challenging vintage.
No, I'm looking for. I don't know if I think we've got less than a dozen of the 22s left, and every time I taste them, I think of 20. It has that beautiful, soft, warm sort of hug in the mid palate that seems to identify so similar. And then
Alors,
23, I was so excited. I hadn't tasted 23 until this morning. And what struck me when I opened the bottles were this beautiful sweet leather kind of umami fragrance that came out of the jars as I was pouring it. It's really seductive, but also the personality is very different from anything else in front of us tonight. It's has a very different point of view, I think, 23.
23, as I told you, it's the second warmest vintage. So what is interesting in this vintage is the fact that the weather was just very nice. Alors, I don't know if you can
Yeah, yeah,
see that.
yeah.
This is the rainfall compared to the average and the temperature compared to the average over the month in the year 2023. And you see the line is always above the average.
Yeah.
Always. So especially at the end of the year, August, September, and October, which was extremely helpful because in 2023 we had a big quantity in Bordeaux. The yield was extremely prolific, and fortunately, the weather was like that with not so much rain during the summertime and quite warm temperature. And finally, this 23, if we had lowest quantity in Bordeaux, it would have been close to the 2020. But the fact that it has a lot of quantity, the wine is extremely smooth and much more. I don't like the word diluted because it's not diluted, but it's less concentrated than the 22, and of course also of the 2020. But the wine is approachable already
Very
now.
soon. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yes.
In fact, I would drink 23 before I drank 22 for quite a
Exactly.
long time.
And maybe perhaps 23 before 20. Maybe. We will see in a few years.
Agree. Yeah. I think there's flavors that are coming out of the glass. There's this beautiful sensual rippling, almost oiliness on the palate, and maybe squid ink. There's a black inky kind of component to it, which is gorgeous. And the previous 5 vintages, as they were released, I've never encountered the same characteristics as this one, which made me wonder about the percentages of Cabernet in it. But you say it was pretty much the same in the last few vintages, right? So
Yeah.
it's purely an expression of the date of picking more than anything, and the increased heat temperature.
And so the blend is 84 Cab and 16 Merlot in 23. Very close to the 21, which is funny. 84 Cab, 14 Merlot, and 12 and 2 Petit Verdot in 21.
Yeah.
And the 22 is the record ever. It's 86 Cab, 12 Merlot, 2 Petit Verdot. I think that, well, I'm not close to the retirement. I think in 10 years, I will reach a little bit above 90% Cab in the next.
Well, this is what I'm so glad to be able to talk to you about that, because it's clearly nudging north. It's getting it's getting to very close to a pure Cabernet. And this leads me to one of the questions I wanted to ask you before we say goodbye. What is the future of Bordeaux regarding Cabernet? Are we facing a critical juncture where the Bordelais need to consider other kinds of varietals again? you know?
We have so many rules in France that we
I
can do
know.
what we want. And in Saint-Julien, so far, I'm allowed also to plant only 6 grape variety.
Right.
I could plant Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc,
Yeah.
Malbec, Carmenère, Merlot, and Petit Verdot. That's the only one.
And of those 6 varietals, would it be correct in saying that Malbec has the better chance in extraordinary temperature?
No. Honestly, I have a plot. If you come to Lagrange, I have a plot,
Uh,
one row of each grape variety, same soil, same weather conditions.
Fantastic.
During the harvest time, you can taste the grapes
Yeah.
and compare.
Oh, that's amazing.
Malbec on our deep gravelly soil, because I love Malbec in Cahors, some very good Argentina wines as well.
Mm.
The berries are quite big, so the wine looks a little bit diluted. It has a
Okay.
lack of concentration. It doesn't work on our deep gravelly soil. Carmenère, even we had the 4 warmest vintage ever over the last 5 years, never ripe.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's good in Chile, maybe good in Bordeaux in 70 years, but the global warming is not enough so far.
So
And
you would
but the
say
climate is great.
you would say that for our lifetimes, we're still going to be talking about Cabernet Sauvignon. That there's not going to be
Cabernet,
any beach change in style and anything.
yes, I will plant, and I'm planting a little bit more Cab than before. Because when I arrived 19 years ago, some plots of Merlot in a more southern part with clay soil were better than Cabernet Sauvignon. Nowadays,
Right.
Cabernet Sauvignon are better than
Yeah,
Merlot,
that
even
Merlot.
on this cool soil. So I'm thinking that in the next following years or decades,
Yeah.
I will have 90 plus Cab, 5, 6 Merlot, 2, 3 Petit Verdot. I
Yeah.
think it will be something like that
Yeah.
in the next following years for Lagrange.
What did you guys think of? What was your favorite? Did you have one? I'm not sure if they're still on the. Maybe they've gone to have dinner. I always like to.
No, we're still here.
Are
We're
you
still
there?
We've been munching on cheese and bread.
Excellent, excellent. No, I love to watch people eat.
Yeah. So
So,
it's fascinating listening to all the details
oh, okay, that's
while
great.
we've been just
Yeah. Oh, that's
sticking
awesome.
away here.
So it's so interesting because compared to when I was pouring it early today, I was sure that 2000 was going to be the dominant wine. I'm left thinking that 2022 is probably my favorite of the lineup. And I really love 23 because it's so characteristically different. I think it's clearly from the same family, but very different personality in the final summation. So it's a really fascinating lineup.
Yeah, the 23 is very approachable, it seems.
Yeah, the approachability of
seems to need a
23.
lot more time. Yeah,
Yeah,
it seems
agree.
very, I don't know, almost a little slightly unbalanced right now. Like
Yeah.
not balanced, but it needs time. Yeah.
So
And the
Matthew,
one,
I always
yeah.
like to ask our winemakers at these events, is when you're not drinking Lagrange, what wines do you drink as a favorite?
Alors, outside Bordeaux, I like Northern Rhône from Côte-Rôtie, Jamais, from Saint-Joseph, Pierre Gonon, such a kind of wine with full of Syrah. I like that. I like that a lot. For white, it's Burgundy, but too expensive
Yeah, I know.
nowadays. Definitely too expensive. So some German Riesling that I like
Rieslings?
a lot as well.
Yeah.
Very good value.
Yeah.
And I am a big fan of few Cabernet. I'm a big fan of Cab. Some few Cabs, for example, maybe Ridge Montebello.
I love it. I love Ridge.
I love this
Yeah.
wine. One
It
of
makes
my
sense.
favorites.
Yeah.
In US by far, but
Yeah.
one of my favorite.
I think
Dominus.
stylistically, for me, Ridge and Montelena are my two favorite old school Cabernets. I fought for the last 20 years against the new direction of Napa Cabernet. I'm not a big fan.
Me too.
I constantly go back to the old school producers, and I love them so much. I think they're just amazing. I hope they manage. So their biggest problem is water, right? So
the problem is also the price, because the US wines are really, really expensive. The value for money sometimes you can discuss with Bordeaux.
I think their market has been quite parochial for many decades. and the local market has been able to bear the cost of what they're charging. But we're in interesting times for all of that. I remember 20 years ago, Opus 1 was 150 Sing a bottle, and it's now about 600 Sing a bottle. And there's a lot of drinking I can do with 600 Sing. So, you know, that's a personal preference, I guess. But Matthew, I'm sure I speak for Derek and Co and Joe. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's
Merci beaucoup.
fantastic.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
You're most welcome. If you're in Asia, to come and have dinner with us, it would be great to see you.
I will be at the end of May, but just for one night, I will have a dinner with Potiong in Singapore.
Oh, Pochong, yeah, fantastic.
Voilà.
No, that's
But
good.
I'm go quite often, so why
Oh.
not schedule something
Let me know,
at
we'll
the end
work
of the year
something
in
out.
November?
Yeah, that'll be wonderful. All right,
Okay.
thank you so much,
Keep in touch.
and hope to see you again. If not in Singapore, we'll see you online.
For sure. Maybe in Hong Kong Vinexpo. I will be there. For the
Okay,
UCC.
fantastic. Yeah, that'll be great. All right. Thank you, Matthew. Good night, everybody. Enjoy your weekend.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Appreciate. Have a good weekend too.
Of
Have a
course.
good
Take
night.
it easy,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you, Robert.
Bye.
Thank you, Matthew.
Merci.